Shir is dedicated to Nishmas Rachalea Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Today, I'd like to introduce a new malacha here, and we're going to study, the next malacha that we'll do is the malacha of Kotev, and with Kotev we'll also study the malacha of Mochek. Kotev, of course, is the affirmative act of writing, and the malacha of Mochek is when you go ahead and erase that which you have written. And the Mishnah in Masechet Shabbos Daf Kuf Gimel reads as follows. The Mishnah tells us, HaKosev shtei osios. You have to write two letters. Bein b'yamino, bein b'smolo. The letters have to be written either, whether you write the letters with your right hand or your left hand. We'll see about that in the Gemara. Bein mishem echad, bein mishtei shemos. Rashi explains, you need two letters over here, but it doesn't matter, says Rashi, whether you write two of the same letters twice, or you write two different letters. Let's say, for example, Rashi explains if you write an aleph and an aleph, that's going to be Kosev, or if you write an aleph and a beis, both ways, that'll qualify as the malach of Kosev. And there's a unique chiddush in Rashi, because Rashi writes shtei and aleph, and even if you write an aleph and an aleph, that's going to be Kosev, even though that does not form anything that resembles a word whatsoever, that's still going to be the malacha. And then the Mishnah tells us, it doesn't matter if you use multiple inks, bein mishtei samanios, different kinds of inks, different colors, all of that is going to be chayav. And even b'chol lashon, no matter what language you write in, whether you write in Lashon HaKodesh, or in Greek, or in English, that's all going to be part of the Isser. And that is the view of the Tana Kama. The Tana Kama says the malacha is malacha called Kosev, and you have to write two letters, the details that we just saw. Comes on the Mishnah and continues and says, Amar Rav Yossi, lo chivu shtei osios ela mishum roshem, shekach kosvin al karshe hamishkan, leida eze ben zugo. Says Rav Yossi, the malacha is not really called Kosev. Rather, the more accurate term for the malacha is the malacha of Roshem, and when it comes to the malacha of Roshem, making a mark. The Yisr is making a mark. You don't have to necessarily write the two letters, but any kind of characters, any kind of marks with meaning would be the malacha. And he says the reason we have this as the malacha, not the malacha of Kosev, is because that's exactly what they did in the Mishkan. Here already Rav Yosef gives a clue and in how this malacha was performed in the Mishkan, because shekach kosen al karshe hamishkan leida eze ben zugo. Says Rav Yosef, in the Mishkan, when they want to go ahead and line up the badim, the krushim, they'd have thamos krushim that were 10 amos tall, and they'd be placed in sockets. You'd have to line them up properly, the proper keresh in the proper socket, the beam into its socket, so they'd have to go ahead and make a mark on the keresh, on the beam, in the corresponding socket as well. And that mark would be the malacha. It's not the malacha of Kosev, but rather the malacha of Roshem. And then finally, the next line of the Mishnah, and with this the Mishnah ends, Amar Rav Yehuda, Matzinu Shem Kat Mi Shem Gadol, Shem Yishimenu Shmuel, Noach Mi Nachar, Dan Mi Daniel, Gad Mi Gadiel. A person will be chayav for writing, even if he doesn't necessarily complete his Ma'aleches Machsheves. Let's say he wants to write the word Shmuel, and he stops with just the Shin and the Mem. So since that's already called a meaningful act of writing, that's already called the Malach Chashuv, it's part of Shmuel. Perhaps it even has significance in and of itself as the name Shem, so therefore that's going to be chayev, and that's the chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda. In any event, what we see from this Mishnah, and what we're going to focus on today, is you have to be chayev. You're only chayev for two osios. You have to write two letters. If you don't write two letters, that's not going to be the malacha. If you write only one letter, apparently you will have not done the malacha. And Rav Yossi says the malacha is roshem, and even if you make only one reshima, one marking, that also is not going to be the malacha. Interestingly, the Mishnah in Masechet Shabbos and Daf Ayin Gimel, the Mishnah lists all the Lametes Malachos, so that Mishnah also further highlights and emphasizes the need for Shtei Osios. The Mishnah tells us that the Malacha of Kosev is defined as HaKosev Shtei Osios, and then the Yisr of Mochek, of erasing, is HaMochek Al Menas Lichtov Shtei Osios. Similarly, the Malacha of Mochek is erasing, but you have to erase an amount that leaves room for the writing of two letters. You can erase one big letter b'chayiv as long as there's space now for the writing of two letters. Again, the emphasis on the need for shtei osios. And in this vein, Tosfos points out over here in Maseches Shabbos Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph Div Masla Ha'oseh, Tosfos has a very, very interesting question. Tosfos points out that when it comes to this list of 39 malachos, a few malachos, not many, only a few, mention a shear as part of the malacha. Most of the malachos do not mention the shear. When it comes to borer, when it comes to ofer, when it comes to zoreya, choresh, all the malachos, malabim, no shear is mentioned. However, says Tosfos, tzarich lafaresh, but it does need an explanation. Lama piresh kan, when it comes to the malacha of ha'oseh shnei batei nirin, when it comes to making the weaving device. So you have to make shnei batei nirin, it mentions the shear, the amount. Uba oreg, when it comes to the malacha of oreg, so Tosfos says, oreg requires shnei chutin, you have a shear. Potseya tofer, when it comes to